Back. So we're going to continue now. I'm going to try to reorganize this code. So let's see we can create few more um, few more. And before I do that, I'm going to actually check out to a new branch. So before I do that, let me just make small. Let me make small bit here. Sorry about that. Just gonna make quick update right away. So at the time of watching the video, you can actually have an updated version of this already. So now I'm going to start a new branch. So I'm going to call it solution. So and this solution is based from the starter project. So this is what we're going to be working on right now. Okay, so if you see now, this is where this tutorial is going to be focusing now. So we're going to be moving from this point forward, right? We're going to be working on the solution branch, right? So I'm going to create a new package called this widget. Let's call this data. So inside it, I'm going to do another package. I'm going to call it API. All right, and I'm going to do another directory. I'm going to do that view. So inside view, I'm going to do widgets. Okay. All right. So having done that, I'm going to create a new dot class. So I'm going to do let's do PHIXLAB API. I like using a very long name so that it will be easy for someone that's coming to read the code to actually understand. And it's okay to use the name of the project that you're working on so that there'll be uniformity in the namings, right? Naming is very important and also very hard to do. So I'm going to do that, then I'm going to add this. So I'm going to just do a class PHIXLAB API. All right, so all right, so I'm just going to rename this. It wants it to have, yeah. I think that try to enforce lower cases in the file name. So PHIXLAB API. All right, but the class is okay like this. Okay, so I'm going to do two functions. So the function we're going to be doing is the function that we're going to actually probably pull our data from API, but this is going to be a static class, a static functions, right? So static feature, and this is going to be a feature of this very object because all we're trying to return is this particular PHIXLAB stuff, right? So it's feature with a type of object PHIXLAB stuff, and we're going to call that fetch stuff. And it's going to be asynchronous because we're going to be waiting for a while. So let's go ahead and import this, and then it's going to complain that we don't have return type here. So let's just quickly go to this place and cut out this very function. All right, we're going to have an error here, but that's not a problem. We're going to fix that later. So basically, let me just paste the code here. All right, I'm going to now take out the future again and the last curly brace, just that. Right, so I'm going to format the code. Now we need to import the root bundle and the compute. and then we also need to import the JSON files from the convert. All right, let me also explain what this compute does. Compute is actually an isolate function. If you've actually heard isolate, you know what isolate does. But if you've not, isolate is actually what helps us to make a request that supposedly going to take a lot of time. All right, and maybe like a complex stuff that we want to run in a different. How do I explain that? In a different isolate basically, or a different thread basically. So we are trying to, if we have a very long computation, a very difficult computation, and we are doing a lot of work already in this particular thread, we want to open a new thread of event queue to actually run this very instruction. We could do that there. So once we call this await compute, it's going to open a new isolate because that uses isolate to run its code. So every other thing I'll be running will be running in a different frame. This guy is going to run on a different frame. So once it's done, it's going to hand back the information back to this frame. The reason is so that we don't have this jittering or lagging in our operation. So this is just the need for you to have this. It's not actually very much needed in this very project, but just a way to actually bring this into your notice if actually you've not encountered this. And most of the time, you must have actually encountered this on some interviews. If how do you handle such complexities in your code, right? And it's always used in situations like this, passing a very long JSON data, right? This is always a time consuming for the computer to do. All right, that being said, so we've been able to have this, and what we have done is just almost to just organize our code, take what we have in the main.dat and bring it into this place. So let's go again and import this guy here. So how do we import this? Because it's a static class, we just need to call the name of the class first. We don't need a new instance. So I'm just going to do PHIXLAB API dot fetch. Then we need to import this. So with that now, we've actually cleaned up our UI a bit, and we only have the code being done from the API part, right? Now, this is just one part of what we're doing. We've not been able to structure our data yet. So, but let's continue. Let's continue again. The next thing we need to do is to create our UI, because if you see here, we don't have anything on the UI yet. So let's create in our widget, let's create the item that's going to represent, it's going to represent our list here. It's going to represent an expanded list, or it's going to represent a title and the children, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So first of all, let me explain what I used in this very scenario. So I am using an expansion tile, and if you go to the dev api.dev, api.flutter.dev, you have this particular class called expansion tile. You know, it has a single line list tile, right, with expansion arrow icon that expand or collapse to reveal or hide its children. So if you go down, you're going to see that the expansion tile has a title. You can also have a subtitle, then and every other thing. Then, but most importantly, it has children. So the title is what you see with the icon that comes along with it, and then it has a list of children. And these children can, most of the time, we normally use list styles because it gives us more friendly look. So list style is what enables us to probably achieve these arrows that you are seeing here. So you can see that we have an arrow here, which is normally a trailing arrow or a trailing type of widget. And then this is the title of the list style, right? So that is what expansion list style is going to do for us. So that is what we're going to be using to actually create our UI. All right, so let's go back to that code. So just going to create a quick one here. I'm going to call it staff list style. All right, so it's going to be a stateless widget. So I'm going to do stateless widget staff list style. All right, so let's import material, import package, Flutter. So we've imported that. Then what do we need to do? We need to replace this guy. We need to replace this guy with expansion tile. So it needs a title, and it needs children as well. All right. So just give this test. So the children is going to be a list style, but we've not actually been able to get this data yet. So let's first of all just put a single list style here. List style. Title. It's going to be a widget. The same thing is going to happen here as well. So it's supposed to be a widget. We just do jump here so we can have something. All right, so this is just a placeholder. We're going to come back to this very class to actually pass the individual information that it's going to need to actually work. So because we cannot hard code our responses here, and we don't know the number of list of children that this is going to have, so that means we need to actually kind of iterate what we have, and then should be able to pass that. But before we do that, we're going to do that in the next video. In the next video, we're going to be creating a class. This class is actually what we're going to use to reorganize the current item we have, because what we have from the API is just this guy, and this guy comes back with a list of a list of staffs, and that's not what we need. We need to be able to reorganize the class or reorganize the data, which is actually the major thing that we're actually doing on this very tutorial, right? So most of the things you've seen is probably what you've seen before on different tutorials, but what's the main pain point of this very tutorial is what we're going to do on the next one. We need to restructure this particular request here, and then we need to be able to reorganize and restructure the data we're getting before we can be able to create a new class. This new class is actually what we're going to use to now map the response to the UI. So we're going to do that in the next video.